What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports. Flyers, they lose this game today, a matinee against the Ottawa Senators, 3-2 in overtime, which, we could probably, talk about the slow start once again because the Flyers started off insanely slow. They just looked completely out of place there in the first period. Ottawa was completely all over them, and that resulted in a 2-0 early lead for the Ottawa Senators. And we brought this up against the Nashville Predators when they started off that game so slow, is that when you start to play teams that are more talented than you and you come out of the gate like you constantly do, and this is, a reoccurring theme. They've had quite a few games this year where they come out of the gate slow and they just look lost. They just look like they don't have their legs. Not skating to the puck. They're not being physical. They're just not doing anything. They look like they just forgot how to play the game. And we've seen that a lot of times this year to start the season and starting games. And like I say, when you play better competition, it's going to result in more goals going in the back of your nets. And granted, today, Sam Ersson did start in net. It wasn't Dan Vladar. I would really only blame one of the goals on Sam Ersson, which was the second one, which that was really one where you can really help your team out there when they're breaking down defensively. But a one-timer goal, the one in overtime was another complete defensive breakdown. So it's weird, too, because when you get dominated as much as you do in the first period, you completely controlled the second half of the game. There was such a long stretch from like the 7.5-minute mark left in the second period towards like the final minutes of the third period where Ottawa did not have a single shot on net. That is insane how much you controlled the game. And not coming out with the win in that is just, it definitely is gut-wrenching in that fact, because Matvei Michkov, I think this probably was his best game of the season, just an overall game with the way that he was skating, the way that he was using his body, because the one goal that he scored was using his physicality to protect the puck, pushing a guy off of him to circle back into the slot, get open, and shoot the puck, wire it into the net to put the Flyers on the board. And this was overall one of Michkov's best, and he has goals in back-to-back games, and that's very huge for Michkov. So hopefully this is something that's going to get him going, because he did look a lot better in today's game. Then you get the game-tying goal in the third period by Jamie Drysdale. Flyers are just literally hemming Ottawa in their zone basically the entirety of the third period. And it's just like, come on, you can't let that one slip. It really just is that case. And then you go to the overtime. I'm not sure if it was a miscommunication. I'm not sure like what the case was, whether Trevor Zegras wanted to come off, nobody on the bench was communicating with him, or it was vice versa. Trevor Zegras told the bench to hold off. I'm not getting off the ice here. And then in that ensuing miscommunication, Ottawa springs Tim Stützle, who scored earlier in the game, and, just a bing, bang, boom, right into the back of the net. And that's just how it is. So it was, and that's the second time that, Tippett and Zegras with a little bit of a defensive breakdown. So that's probably a theme when Owen Tippett's on the ice. And I'm really getting tired of watching Owen Tippett play. I'm just being very honest with you. And also one criticism that I will have in the overtime as well, when you finally get a Matvei Michkov shift in overtime, it gets cut short because Sean Couturier goes offside as Matvei Michkov cuts to the middle. And Sean Couturier visibly frustrated right there on the bench. And one thing that I don't like from Coots in that aspect is just like he doesn't dap up Michkov saying like, my bad guy, my bad man, I made a mistake, we'll get it next time. He just looked visibly frustrated on the bench, and I don't like that view from the captain. I just don't like that whatsoever. So that's definitely something that I point out from that aspect. It was your only Michkov shift, which sucked in that overtime. So, and with the way that he was playing, I would have liked to see him more in the OT, less of Sean Couturier. Tippett in the overtime as well. He had a puck on the boards where it could have been a clean breakout and going the other way in the 3-on-3, and he just, for some reason, completely forgot he even had the puck, or he just completely didn't know what to do with the puck. Every time I watch Owen Tippett, it's just the most frustrating thing in my goddamn life that I'm seeing. I mean, what does this guy do right? This guy has all the skills in the world. He's got the speed, he's got the physicality, he's got the electric shot, and he doesn't know how to utilize it properly. Like, I see moments where he should be utilizing his speed going full throttle just to get around a defenseman. He just stops skating. Owen Tippett is so fucking frustrating. And that's why a lot of Flyers fans just want him to be traded, including me. I would love it if Owen Tippett got traded, because his no movement clause does kick in next season, or it's a modified no movement clause. And I would love to trade him before that kicks in, because Jesus Christ, you are going to have to make some decisions with some wingers on this team that you're going to have to move, because you got so many other wingers down in the prospect system. Some guys might be the odd ones out, and Owen Tippett might be that odd one out. It just sucks that you fucking signed him to that contract, which I never agreed with. But besides the fact, also with Sam Ersson being in net, Ottawa only having 13 shots in this game. I think the goal by Stützle was the only shot that they had in the overtime. Still, it reads as 3 goals on 13 shots. Still the same discussion with Sam Ersson, that he just cannot make that extra save when you need to. But then it's also hard to criticize because he barely faced anything the entire game from that second period on. So, but and the goal by Stützle, you really can't blame him on. That was just a one-timer into an open net. It's not Ersson's fault. But the one thing I'll really put him on is, when the team is breaking down that much in the first period, especially on that second goal by Amadio, that's a save that Ersson could make, because there was it was miscommunication between Tippett and Zegras on what man to cover. Tippett just completely just lets Amadio go right in as he's going after another guy, and then he just backhands it behind Ersson. That's a save Ersson could make, but it's also just a fucking defensive breakdown by Tippett and Zegras. Can't happen. It can't happen. So that's annoying. Hello, Shoko. Can you not be yourself right now? Thank you. Thank you. But really, But I guess you can also look at it as, if you want to try to bring some positivity in here, Jamie Drysdale continues to look good. Matvei Michkov looks like he's improving. Konechny did extend his point streak again, which I don't know how much stock you put into that, because I still don't think Konechny has looked his best, in my personal opinion. Cam York still looks good. Sanheim looks good. Bobby Brink still looks good. Cates, obviously, and all that stuff. Gerbenkin I like. So hopefully Forrester can come back very soon. I'm sure his IR stint can probably be up by the time the Edmonton game happens, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not entirely sure. But, yeah, that's just the thing. So you have 3 days off after this. So get some time to rest. Some guys that are banged up, they can heal up. I would think the 3 days off might be a detriment to Michkov, because he's starting to ramp it up a little bit here. But going back to the positivity thing, ever since that last homestand before you went on the road trip with those 2 bad games and back-to-back days against Toronto and Calgary, you went into Montreal, you got 2 points. Went into Nashville, you got 2 points. Today, you got 1 point. And if you look at this 3-game stretch before these 3 days off, you're looking at 5 of a possible 6 points. And you got 5 of a possible 6 points if you want to look at that type of positivity right there. But it's hard to look at this game and say that you probably should have won. And granted, you're not going to win every game that you should win. Obviously, you're going to have a bad break here or there. But it's just like the way that you dominated that second half of the game, and those little nitpicky things that I bring up, it just makes it a little bit frustrating. It definitely just does. Man, what are you going to do, though? I'm trying to see if there's anything else. That stands up from this game. Not entirely sure. What else is there? I guess it also does, if you want to look at more positives, it does state to this Flyers team that they continue to fight, especially after these slow starts. But it also just comes down to, you got to start slow. You got to stop starting slow. It's just a problem. And I don't know why that happens. I don't know why they continue to start slow in games. I'm not sure if this is just adjusting to a new coach. I don't know if this is purely coaching. I don't know if this is the players. But I don't remember this team starting off this slow this many times when they were playing under Torts. So is it a preparation thing? Is Rick Tocchet not preparing these guys enough for games as to why they're starting off so slow? Because it's just like how great they started off against Montreal on Tuesday, scoring 3 goals in that third period, and then you're just back to Nashville. You start off slow in the first period. Today you start off slow in the first period. Against Toronto and Calgary, you were bad in those games, starting off slow and just looked lost. So is it solely a coaching thing? Because I think a lot of that has to do with coaching. For some reason, the message that Rick Tocchet is trying to reciprocate to the team, they're just not taking it in, and they're not readying themselves for games. I just don't know. I just don't know. I wouldn't really know where to go from that. So, and also maybe that's bias on my side because I wasn't really high on hiring Rick Tocchet to begin with. So maybe I'm putting some bias in there. That could also be a factor. But it's all I got to go off of. Because I don't remember this team starting off like this miserable in games when Torts was the head coach. I just don't remember it. So maybe it is a coaching thing. Maybe it's an adjusting. Even granted, you have a month here. You should be adjusted to the coach by now. But maybe I'm asking a little too much. And Rick Tocchet just answers my question right here. Jordan Hall talking in post-game press conference with Tocchet. Rick Tocchet, exactly. I've got to do a better job getting the team ready. So this is... it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy, it's crazy, it's crazy. And there's like so many Flyers fans that are talking about the Couturier contract and all that stuff. It's... Yeah, if this was a good team, Sean Couturier is not playing on the top line. Sean Couturier is not playing first line. He's not playing second line. He's probably playing third line. And granted, I would think third line's more of a disrespect to Sean Couturier. But there's so many Flyers fans that are just tired of seeing Couturier. And I feel like that's kind of unfair. But there's still the argument, yes, if this was a better team, Couturier would not be your top line center. That's just bottom line right there. And people keep talking about you got to do whatever you can to try to get rid of the Couturier contract and all that stuff. You're not going to be able to trade it. It's just sadly the case. Sean Couturier coming off of 2 back surgeries, granted that was a couple of years ago. He's giving you everything he's got. You're not going to be able to trade that contract away. It's just sadly the case. And he also has a no movement clause. So you would have to go to him to try to move the contract. And I don't know what type of teams are taking on that salary for as much term as he has left. I think you're just stuck with it. I think you're just really stuck with it. So... Don't like that whatsoever. So, and granted, yes, I didn't like his body language on the offsides in overtime. Instead of like going to his young player and saying, hey, my bad. Give him a fist pump, dap him up a little bit. Didn't do that. Just went into the bench. Felt sorry for himself, it looked like there. So yeah, there's definitely some question marks. 100%. It's just, you're just not going to be able to trade him. That's just a fact. You just can't. It's... man, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Of course, Claude Giroux gets another point against the Flyers because for some reason he always amps up to play the Flyers, of course. That's kind of annoying. But I do appreciate that Michkov is starting to wake up a little bit. Like I said, I think this was overall Michkov's best game of the season. So maybe that's a good thing for the stretch. Granted, they do have a lot of days off here in the next few. So you got the 3 days off here. You play next Wednesday, or this upcoming Wednesday, the 12th, against the Edmonton Oilers. That'll be a very tough game. And then you got a road back-to-back against St. Louis and Dallas. And then after that, you got 4 days off. So you're going to be getting some days off in the next few weeks here. So we'll see where it takes us. And in terms, if you just want to look at where the Flyers are in the standings, they are in the first wild card spot. They got 18 points on the season, 8-5-2. So yeah. Interesting stuff there. Interesting. I just want to look at some of the other teams that are right here in the standings where they're at. Edmonton, they're 6-5-4. They have not been good on the road, so maybe that works well for the Flyers. Calgary still sucks. St. Louis still sucks. A lot of teams in the Western Conference are below 500. Crazy. What else? Still, there's not one team in the Eastern Conference that's below 500. Crazy stuff there as well. It's weird. Rick Tocchet says Jamie Drysdale is battling a bug right now, and he really liked how he fought through it. Ended up giving him 24 minutes, and he scored a game-tying goal. Interesting. Maybe that's good for the 3 days off here. Get over that bug, whatever he's dealing with. Well, we do have a voicemail here on the Anytime Hotline. We might as well get to that. Then we wrap it up with some of you guys in the chat here. So let's go to Sean's call. Let's see what he has to say on this OT loss.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish. But in the Flyers' case today, they started and finished like shit. I mean, you lose the game where you feel like you should have got 2 points because for 3/4 of the game you were the better team. You lose the game because Trevor Zegras makes a mental error in overtime that you just can't make. And sometimes, and I've said it before, I wonder if the Flyers should be ultra aggressive in overtime, knowing that you have an advantage in the shootout. It's a shame they couldn't have gotten it there and it took them. But again, you just can't get off to these continued sleepwalking starts in games and keep pulling games out of your hat at the end. And the Flyers have given the Philadelphia fans now 3 straight garbage performances at home. All of a sudden, playing on the road seems to agree with them a lot more than playing at home. So, tough loss. You know, you could say, hey, they got a point, but in today's game against Ottawa, I don't think that's good enough. Off topic, since you saw it, your thoughts on the Pelle Lindbergh documentary. Pelle was one of my favorites. It's a shame that his career and his life ended as abruptly as it did because the kid was just starting to come into his own.
Yeah, I did see the Pelle Lindbergh doc yesterday, and it was good. It was definitely good. It went a little long, and apparently the one that's going on streaming services, when it eventually does, it's gonna be longer. The director said that he had to cut it under 2 hours for the movie theater just so like he didn't keep people in there as long as it was supposed to be. But yeah, it definitely was a good documentary. It definitely went into more depth of how the accident happened and like reenacting and all that stuff and like finding out, from talking to former Flyers that were at the scene and all that stuff, talking to the 2 people that were in Pelle's car that survived the accident somehow. I still don't understand how those 2 survived the accident. That's just fucking a miracle right there, and great work by the paramedics that arrived on the scene and the first responders. But yeah, it definitely for me helps me learn more about that stuff because that's not my era of Flyers hockey. That's more my dad's era of Flyers hockey, what he grew up with. And granted, he was born before they won the 2 Stanley Cups. Granted, he was very young, like still in grade school when the Flyers won the back-to-back Stanley Cups with the Broad Street Bullies. But like in his young adult years, his late teenage years, like getting into adult life and all that stuff, college, the '80s Flyers, that was what he grew up with more in times. That was what connected a lot of people into the city, and that's more made for those people. I'm sure like you as well, Sean, and like yeah, it's definitely a good documentary. It just helps me learn for people that just weren't around for that era of Flyers hockey. So it's one thing, like I'm not trying to disrespect anything like here. Like it's hard for me to connect to it because I wasn't around then. I wasn't even in existence when that era of Flyers hockey because so many people talk about the 80s teams and all that stuff and everything there. It's just, I don't connect to that, sadly. But it's good to learn the history for like someone my age, people that are younger, people that didn't grow up in that era. So I think it's good for that aspect. And it's more of a, like I said, just trying to understand how the accident happened rather than just like a backstory on Pelle's life or just like his career or anything like that. It was more like, okay, what led up to it? How did it get into this case? And like they're really trying to harp on the fact that the Flyers should retire his number 31 and all that stuff, especially since they do play on January 31st, which is him and Bernie Parent's numbers. And they also had Bernie Parent in the documentary before he passed, talking about how one of his wishes was for the Flyers to retire Pelle's number. And they're definitely trying to push the Flyers to do that, but they're getting a lot of backlash from the Flyers. They said the Flyers did not support this documentary. Like the Flyers legal and all that stuff did not support this documentary. So there's something to that. And the Flyers, they're definitely still very touchy with the subject of Pelle Lindbergh, just because of the way that he died. Drunk driving, being under the influence and all that stuff. If I put my 2 cents in there, I just don't think they're going to retire his number. I really just don't think it's going to happen. And whether that's right or wrong, it's just to the fact of they're owned by a corporation. They're owned by Comcast. And Comcast is definitely, worried about the backlash, possibly, if that were to happen. Granted, if it's very little backlash, it's still backlash that they probably worry about. Why people still harp about the Kate Smith statue and all that stuff. It's Comcast. They have a reputation to uphold. So they're not going to do that. And He said that some people that he was trying to get interviewed was Bobby Clark. Bobby Clark declined for an interview. He tried to get Henrik Lundqvist for an interview. He declined because apparently they're doing like 2 other documentaries for Pelle Lindbergh, one in Sweden, and I believe there's another one that's happening in the U.S. So there's apparently 2 more documentaries that are happening with Pelle Lindbergh. So that's interesting. But yeah, it's a good documentary, I would say. From what it looks like, I would assume it's going to be on Amazon Prime, because when they showed in the beginning, like they showed like mini snippets of the director's like other documentaries that he did, and they said like all of his documentaries are on Prime. So I'm assuming it's going to go on Prime, and yeah. So definitely when it does go on Amazon, and the Amazon version is going to be the longer version that was shown in the theaters. So we'll see. It was good. It was good though. So I definitely would recommend it for like Flyers fans that grew up in that era and just and people that want to understand more how the crash happened. Definitely interesting. Let's see, guys in the comments section as well, and we'll write it off. Tough loss, but Michkov seems to be in the groove. Yeah, it's good for Michkov to get going, so that's definitely important right there. Flyers should not have been dominated in that first period, but hopefully Michkov goes on a tear. It's just a weird theme with this team with the way they start off slow. Let's see. It sucks that the Flyers let this. Yep. Owen Tippett, who he is. Yeah, it's basically just that he is who he is. Is who he is. So that'll do it for tonight, everybody. I appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. Use the code TTPSports as well.